and welcome back to this channel. I wanted to do an episode today on how to be a consistent reader. So yeah, happy almost New Year. As you can see, I still have a Christmas tree behind me. It's something that we definitely keep up as long as possible. We actually got a tree this year that I want to say it's a balsam fir or something like that, but it's a sort of fir, not noble fir, it's another kind that is supposed to last longer, and it has. We got it over a month ago, and it still looks like we just got it last week. So, really happy about that. We typically look for any excuse to keep it longer. We also, in our tradition, both me and my husband are from Slavic backgrounds, and Russian slash Orthodox slash Slavic Christmas, Ukrainian, all that. They celebrate on January 7th. So I always keep it up at least until then. And then we kind of decide from there when to get rid of it. But it feels like it keeps things festive. And especially in the months living in the Northwest when things are rainier and cloudier and more gray, I love to have more decoration and cozy things around the house. So it definitely helps with that. Anyways, I wanted to update you on the books I'm reading. I finished, or I guess I didn't end up finishing the New York one. Personally, it wasn't my flavor, if that makes sense. I'm sure other people loved it. Clearly, it had great reviews, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. So I have a new one now that I got for Christmas. I always give my husband my book list for Christmas, and that way we're both happy. He knows what to get me, and I get something that I want. And then, we do a couple other surprise gifts also for each other. But the book he got me is The Forgotten Cottage. Very light read. It's kind of a parallel story of a girl, kind of like the book that I was talking about that I wrote, where it's a girl that is raised in America and then she goes to England because her grandma passed. And then it shares also her grandma's story when she lived in England. And so it's just this parallel story of, their love stories and their life. And it's just a really nice light read to end and start the year with. So I'm excited to just to have a book that you really relax with. And I like to have a book like that. And I'm also still rereading The Gentleman in Moscow, which I just am loving all over again as I reread it. It's amazing. I truly love every moment that I read that book. So it's a good one and perfect for winter. And then as far as the book that I'm writing, my third book now, as I talked about in my previous video, I finished the first draft shortly after actually I published the last video. So that's exciting. After I finished, I gave it a break to kind of refocus, recenter, and come back with a fresh or an outside perspective. So that's what I did. And actually just the other day, I started slowly, since it's still the holidays, slowly editing, doing the first round of edits. So that's super exciting. And like I mentioned in the other video, I'll share in another video more details about that. There's a lot of cool, exciting details with that book, things that I haven't done before. So I'm really excited to share all that in an upcoming episode. But anyways, what I really wanted to talk about in this video is how to be a consistent reader. I touched on it a little bit in the first video, how I started to read all the books on my shelf and all that, but I wanted to give a little bit more detail on specifically how to be consistent in your reading in this episode. I've kind of done it in two ways, and I'll explain what I mean. When I first started being consistent in reading, because basically in, middle school, elementary school, I was a huge reader, read all the time. Slowly in high school, it started to taper down, and then I just at one point was still reading here and there, but definitely not at the level that I was before. And I just wasn't super consistent with it. And honestly, it's a lesson that I have applied to many things in life, from working out to making more food at home, just all kinds of good, healthy habits. You can apply this to any of those things because consistency is key, and little by little is key. A lot of times when I see people fail at something that they want to be better at or more consistent at, It's because they try to take on everything at once and all of it at once. And so the key is starting little by little. Like during COVID, I started to really consistently work out, and it wasn't crazy. I would do like two 20-minute sessions per week. But because it was consistent and because I did it every single week, twice a week, every week, I really started to, to see the results that I wanted, and ended up basically being the most fit that I have been ever since I started doing it. So when I first started being consistent once again with reading is actually a pretty busy season in my life. I was working a job. It was part-time, so I would do typically, I want to say 3 times a week I would do it, sometimes two, sometimes, but often three. And it was like 10-hour shifts. So I did that, and I was also doing my prerequisites for nursing and eventually nursing school all throughout that job. So my life was packed. And then towards the second year of nursing school, I started dating my husband. So there was a lot going on in my life, but because I had committed before all the real busyness started, I was able to keep that pattern of being consistent. And so I'll share a little bit of how I did that. I would basically, so as I mentioned in the other video, I had my list of books that I would go down and I would keep reading each one little by little. And then I also just made sure to read at least a little bit every single day. So obviously on my days off it was easier. I do it over my morning coffee or in the evening when I wasn't as tired because I didn't work a shift. And then on days that I did work shifts, I would take the book with me and I would have like a 15-minute break. I want to say maybe 20-minute break, in the first part of the day and the second part of the day, and then I had lunch. And so often it would be on that first break when I still had a fresh mind and was not super tired, I would grab my book with me, grab my snacks or whatever, and I would read for 10 minutes. And I would just do that every day, every time that I worked. And because I did it every day, I continued to do it into the busy season of my life. And I still do it to this day. And so I wanted to share that example because a lot of people, and I don't have kids, so I'm sure it gets even harder with kids, as I've heard. But I think there's a way to make it happen because even, if you're not, you always have 10 minutes somewhere in the day, no matter how busy your life is. And a lot of people use it to scroll or, whatever it is. When I started being more consistent with reading books, it was also during a time that I had deleted my Instagram. I had deleted it for like 6 years before I got it back again, because I started publishing books, and so I made another one. But I didn't have social media, so it was a lot easier to find that time to read. So that's a big thing is, if you're not deleting the whole profile, just deleting the app, making it harder to, just click and scroll for, because that can turn into half an hour easily. And so I just made myself read, and then I started to enjoy it again and to love it again as I did in middle school and elementary school. So yeah, I would encourage that. And then now when my life is a little bit more flexible, I work from home more often. I typically start my morning with reading. I'll get up, um, I'll do my morning routine, brush my teeth and all that. And then I'll make breakfast for my husband and I. And then after breakfast, I sit there with my coffee. I'll read my Bible. I'll write in my gratitude journal. And then I'll read, even if it's a few pages from each of the books that I'm reading. Um, as I mentioned in the other video, I'm rereading one, and I'm always rereading one, and I'm also reading a new one. So I'll read, typically find a stopping point, and then read the other one, find a stopping point, and then if I have time later that day, if it's not as busy of a day, or if I'm not too tired before bed, I'll go back to it. But even that morning time, it keeps me consistent. So that's just something that I would really encourage, is just the key. I know it's the title of the video, but truly consistency is key. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, you'll be surprised how many books you start finishing. And that's because when you lose momentum, it's really hard to get back into it. Whether it's working out, eating healthy, waking up early, whatever. That's my current one. I'm trying to get back to waking up earlier. But whatever it is, as long as you're consistent, it'll be a lot easier to maintain that momentum. And as I mentioned, it's been years and I'm still a consistent reader. I still work out consistently, even if it's just a little bit here and there, but I stay consistent and I get the results that I want because of that. And I'd say the other big thing with that is just pick a book that you enjoy. I used to be very hard with myself and be like, no, I have to read every single page of this book. And it can be a good discipline, but at the same time, it depends what you're doing it for. Obviously, if it's for school purposes or a job that you need to, whatever it's for, there are times that you need to push through the hard books to read. But if it's you're trying to read for pleasure and just expand your mindset, pick a book that you'll genuinely enjoy. If you love self-help books, read those. If you love fiction book, read those. Whatever genre you love to read those books and find books that you love. And with Amazon, it's easy. If you buy a book and you're convinced that you'll love it, and then you're 50 pages in and you're like, I'm not loving it, you can return it, or do the library if you feel like that's easier. But I have just started to be like, it's okay if I don't finish a book just because I started it, because that's my personality. If I start something, I need to finish it. And that can be a really good trait, but when it comes to something that you're trying to do for just your own comfort and pleasure, there's no point to force yourself. So find the genre that you absolutely love. Is it mysteries? Is it thrillers? Is it travel books? Whatever it is, find that genre that you love and read more of those books. And if you get a book and you're 50 pages in, that's been my more recent rule. I used to do like 100 pages in or whatever, but now I'm like, you know what, 50 pages, that's a big time commitment, especially if it's a bigger book. And if you're not going to love it, you're just going to build up a bad reputation or a bad feeling about reading, because you're like, well, last time I tried, I hated it. I believe that truly anyone can become a reader if it's just the book, the right genre that they enjoy. Um, I know that my husband, he was a reader before, but he also kind of like fell out of the habit of doing it consistently. And he read a book that he really loved. It was like a historical fiction about the Roman Empire and all that. And he just fell in love with it. And now he looks for books like that to read. He's a social butterfly. He loves to be out and about and, hanging out with his friends and his family. And at one point, he got a book that he loved so much that he spent the entire weekend reading, and we'd be at an event and he'd want to come back home just to read, which is so not like him. So I think that everyone has that genre that they can just fall in love with. So yeah, I hope that this video helped you. I hope that you get back into reading or start to read consistently if you're not right now. It's amazing. It expands your mind. I think it's super healthy in every way to read books and to just expand your mind with good content. Please let me know in the comments if there's anything else you want me to go over or any specific topics or themes that you'd like me to discuss. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time.